everyone, welcome to the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Driving along here. I'm actually driving. I'm not actually driving. There's somebody driving. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill anybody here. But yeah, we're coming back from Pittsburgh on the way back to Philadelphia. We thought we would do a show for you today. Today is, let's call it Thursday.
That would be good because it is Thursday.
We'll go with that. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, September 15th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, and I know it's 2016. Yesterday we did a show in the past in 2014. But yeah, I know it's 2016. And you're watching the Hockeybuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around this time to fill you in on the comings and goings of the hockey world as you know it. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk a little about the games last night that I witnessed in Pittsburgh. They weren't really all that exciting. I mean, it had its moments, but and it's great to watch the talent. But let's start with North America. Check the Czechs first. That game to me was a couple things that stood out. Now, first of all, Michael Neuwirth, like I predicted, really did well against them, and he's the right goalie for that. Not to say I'm always right, but I was right this time. And I hope that they keep him. I hope they keep using him. And for the Czechs' sake, and then they brought in Mrazek, because they didn't want to go into the tournament with any confidence. And Mrazek did fine. They still managed to get the victory, though. Also, but there were a lot of the real thing that struck me, Russ, about North America is like kind of what we talked about before. The thing about youth is you've got a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. The other thing about youth is you've got a lot of inconsistency and a lot of lack of just
discipline.
Discipline to be able to keep yourself going at the right way. I can't speak today, sorry, but I think you really saw that last night. This looked like kind of like a bored North American team at times, but there wasn't a lot of energy. I mean, players were trying for sure, but there was a little bit of individual stuff going on that you would expect, perhaps, but we hadn't seen to this point. I mean, Matthews, watching Austin Matthews play live was fantastic. I mean, he's all that,
I mean, he's no Line, but he is pretty good.
Right. No, but he scores, he's going to score the different kinds of goals. Like the goal he scored last night, Austin Matthews is going to score that goal, a couple thousand times in his career. That's his goal. Right in there, right in the rebound, pop it in. He definitely has a presence to him, and he has, he's all that he's advertised for sure. Just seeing him live, you get a good perspective of that. As is, of course, Connor McDavid. This is actually the first time I've seen Connor McDavid because he didn't play in Philadelphia last year when he came through.
True.
But it was a good game. I mean, I thought that Russ was going to take care of your dogs. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I agree with your assessment that the game was rather boring. I think from about the middle of the first period till the third. I mean, all you had was the Andre Palat goal in the first period on the power play, and that was basically it. I mean, there was a few good chances, a few good scrums, but there was not the level of excitement that was there when they played Team Europe. And
right.
They had no problem scoring against Team Europe. They had a difficult time breaking through against the Czechs. The Czechs were more disciplined.
By the way, I just switched my microphones. I'm better or worse?
You sound worse now than you did at the beginning.
I did. Okay, I'll change it back. Thanks. Sorry.
But what I think was, I mean, the funny thing is that, I mean, you can see that these Czech players have played with each other for a long time because they know, where each other is going to be. Whereas Team Europe, they're just sort of learning on the go, and they played a much more effective defensive game, and Neuwirth played well. But it was weird that second goal by Faxa was what woke up North America. Then they scored a couple goals in the span of, I think, less than 2 minutes, and they were right back into the game. And then the Czechs, I would say, using their sort of veteran savvy and experience, responded right back and got the win. So I think that Todd McClellan is learning more about his team, and the one thing that's got to be concerning, even though he's a great player and he's probably going to be one of the best players in the league, Connor McDavid has no points yet in 3 games. And he's struggling like Canada struggles with Sidney Crosby finding wingers. He's tried so many different combinations for wingers on McDavid's line and hasn't found something that really fits.
It's true. It's a weird thing because I even saw in the first period McDavid was frustrated. But I felt like both those, both the games that you saw, Eck, I think, like you said, have moments, but it did have a feel of the end of preseason, let's get on with this tournament kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that is what crept into both, really all the teams, every team. But I think certain guys will always rise to the occasion. Good things that you could take out of it for North America were Matthews sticking up for McDavid, for that one writer who said that he probably couldn't play defense, and for all those writers that didn't think he was tough enough, yeah, he certainly can do all those things. It's just not something he does every game, every moment. That's not part of his game.
Right.
I thought that the Czech team did use their wits about them, and that is something that you definitely can do with Team North America. But I don't know if that's going to show up every game. I don't want to kill Todd McClellan, but he doesn't give me a lot of confidence as the coach. I don't know why. Maybe it's what Mike said too. He's just trying to find lines. Like, it just, at this point,
like Edmonton, this feels like what you've seen with Edmonton, and it's hard to get around that.
yeah,
have a very talented young team with all kinds of parts not working together well. So
right.
Not that North America has its moments, and like you said, it's hard to tell, and it's a short tournament really, so anything's possible. But can they keep consistency over the long haul? They don't really have to. They just have to be consistent for 3 games and then get to the semifinals. So.
But in the span of 3 games, Zach, they've used Drouin, Scheifele, Eichel, Matthews, McKinnon on that number 1 line with McDavid. I mean, okay, I understand that nothing is working right now, and maybe that'll just snap into place when the games count. But 5 different line mates in 3 games is chaotic.
Here's what I would do. Honestly, I would put Drouin with Connor McDavid because the speed factor would be very hard, but he would be able to keep up with them, and those 2 guys would feed off each other. I would put Eichel, Scheifele, and Matthews together because that is a big, fast line, and if you have that as your second line, that would create huge matchup problems for any other team. Doesn't matter what the team is. So I think those couple of things could really help them. I really do.
I know that.
I would put Gaudreau, McDavid, and Durant together. That's what I would do. Because that gives you the speed. And the one issue though that we talked about before in others' context that's really appropriate in this situation, or appropriate in this situation, is the fact that there's only 1 puck on the ice. And there's a lot of guys on North America. We were joking around before the game about the fact that some of these, how many players on Team North America are the best players on their team in the NHL right now. There's quite a few of them, and these are the guys who carry the puck all the time, right? And they're used to there's only 1 puck to carry up the ice, so there's a lot of learning that's going on there with these guys. And you can see it whenever they're carrying the puck up the ice. They look great, but the players away from the puck, what are they doing? And that you get a lot of that too. So that's a hard thing to learn in a short period of time. And that's the issue that Edmonton has not been able to learn in a couple of years, right? So same sort of thing where Nugent Hopkins looked pretty good again, I thought, and I think the Flyers fans could take some real solace out of how Shane Gostisbehere looked. Gostisbehere looked really good.
He looks really good.
Not just in scoring the goal, but hitting a crossbar and having other chances too.
I think Seth Jones showed a few warts. He's got to reel it in penalty-wise. He gets a little frustrated. That's the one thing about Seth Jones defensively. He does get a little frustrated, and he does slash, and he does do a couple of those things. In this kind of tournament, that would hurt him.
Well, it's funny that there have been some reports. Mark Spector, friend of the show, was saying in his column on Sportsnet this morning that Parayko may have beaten out Trouba for the 6th spot on the blue line. And for a guy like Trouba, who's still unsigned as an RFA and who's looking for that big payday, if he gets beaten out, by not saying Parayko is not a very good defenseman, because he is, but if Trouba is asking for a long-term deal from the Winnipeg Jets, it's not exactly a great sign for them that he's the 7th defenseman on Team North America instead of being one of the top 6.
Yeah, but would we say that about Phil Kessel if this was his walk year and he didn't have the cup last year and he's not even on the team? Like, I don't even think that matters. I don't.
I think Parayko has been better than him, though.
I think he has been too, but I don't think. Again, it's all different moving parts.
Size is usually important.
I'm just referring to that, Russ, as leverage, because
Sure.
if he was lighting it up, if he was like, oh my God, he's the best player on the ice, then he could go back to Kevin Cheveldayoff and say, okay, pay up. But by him like not really shining, I think that that puts him in a footing where maybe he's going to have to take the bridge deal that he doesn't want to take.
I think that's fair. I mean, but the only thing I would say is most guys in this tournament are going to look bad rather than look good. It's the beginning of the year. They're playing with different teammates. You know what I mean? You're almost set up to fail, especially as a goaltender. Imagine if we counted the goaltending for contracts based on what we see in this. Henrik Lundqvist wouldn't even have a contract now.
Now, the only thing I would be concerned about with the line combo that you were referring to with McDavid, I think it was Drouin and Goudreau, is the fact that that's a very small line, and going up against the Finns or the Swedes or the Russians, it would be tough for them to catch up to them, but if they do, they can inflict some damage on those guys. Not to say that Nathan MacKinnon is a bigger player, but I think they would be better off taking advantage of it.
I think like McKinnon is definitely a more physical player.
Right, taking advantage of the Drouin-McKinnon combo from Junior and having those two together with McDavid might be something that would spark McDavid's offense.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think McDavid will be okay. I think that I don't think he's playing poorly. When you watch him play, he just hasn't found the net necessarily. He's I mean, they're an exciting team to watch. There's no question that Ekblad is just a man among boys.
Oh yeah.
And he is a superstar. I mean, he's like you really feel like you're watching Chris Pronger like in his prime.
Well,
yeah.
That sounds like maybe a really lofty statement to say, but I really feel like he's that good. Like he moves up really well. He's so big. Did you guys see? Because I couldn't really see it because there wasn't a whole lot of great highlights last night, or where we were watching in the press box. But
right,
what happened on the Voracek hit with Ekblad? Because that looked really shady from my side. I don't know if you even saw it. They even made a big deal of it. But
I didn't hear much. Actually, the only hit that registered on the Richter scale at all was the one on McDavid from Roman Polak, and
right.
The funny thing was that Mike Zeisberger, because Austin Matthews was the one that responded to McDavid getting hit and cross-checked Polak in the back, and they asked Polak about it after the game, and basically he tipped his hat to his future teammate because he stuck up for his teammate. So.
Polak, we should say Polak is a strong guy. He's not an easy guy to knock to the ice.
Right.
I mean, on this play particularly, this was right before Voracek. I mean, did you see that when Voracek comes off the ice and gets caught for too many men? Right. That's Voracek was skating off the ice. He didn't know where the hell he was. That's why it was so slow getting off the ice, because he had been totally cross-checked in the back of the head by Ekblad from the net, and it was interesting. So I was just curious if anybody saw it. It was really.
I didn't see that one. I just have to say though that you're right. Ekblad has stood out as I think Gostisbehere played really well. I have a feel a lot of Leaf fans will feel very confident, not only for the fact that Matthews in 3 games has gone from being supposedly the 13th forward and playing 13 minutes to playing 18 minutes and playing with McDavid and Eichel when the goalie was pulled.
There last night when the goalie's pulled to try to tie the game. I mean, that's like when you get in that situation, he's one of the top 6. He's out there at the end of the game. So I mean, he's moved up very quickly, and as we kind of expected he would. So. Morgan Riley has played really well too with Ekblad as a good counter. I mean, Ekblad at times will stay back and Riley will take the puck and go into the offensive zone. So I mean, that's for Toronto fans. That's something that I'm sure they're very excited about. Yeah, no, it's going to be a good. There's a lot of great young talent on display there. Matt Murray was really good again, I thought, and he's usually important. I did my preview today of that bracket, and I really think at the end of the day, if North America is going to get out of that bracket, it's going to come down to Matt Murray. I think even though you have all this talent and everything, it's going to come down to Matt Murray stealing a game. Because I mean, as good as North America is, they've probably played the 2 worst teams in the tournament so far. And they're going to be up against a lot more when they play Finland, Sweden, and Russia, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should talk about Sweden for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I didn't watch a lot of it, but I caught all the highlights, and I caught a little more than that. And you do have to worry about, like, we do understand jet lag is a thing, right? And this is probably why the NHL will never play overseas regular season and count those games. Like, they did it in England at one time, but this is where you do have to worry because not only did Sweden look bad, it looked like Henrik Lundqvist couldn't stop a shot. Like, he was, like, off on every, like, movement, I just never seen him look at that bad. So I think he is concealing an injury that's a little worse than what he would like to tell people it is. And then I do think there was jet lag too, so that's a little bit of a worry for Sweden.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a big worry for Sweden if Lundqvist isn't healthy, right? Because I talked about Sweden today, and I picked Sweden and Russia to come out of that bracket hesitantly. Like I think Russia's the best team in that bracket. I really do. Watching them over the whole tournament so far, and then just last night, they have a lot more going for them than they had in Sochi. As much as you can say their defense isn't great, of course not. But Bobrovsky's a good goalie. If he plays,
he made a great toe save. He really did.
Yeah, and their offense is way better than it was in Sochi. They've added. Panarin can't be underestimated. Like he's a big player.
He's added a lot.
They may be faster than Team North America. I mean, not only do you have Ovechkin and you have Datsuk, you have the grizzled veterans, but you have Kuznetsov, you have Panarin, you have Tarasenko. I mean,
it's crazy. I mean, they have so much offense that I think that gets them out of that bracket.
Now they're gonna need Bobrovsky to play like Tretiak for them to.
But he did play great. Here's the funny thing, though. I think that team, if you're playing against them, you need to keep them at even strength. They'll kill you on the power play, but I think if you keep them at even strength, you can beat them.
And here's the advantage that Russia has. They're going against Sweden and Finland, who are really not. I think both of those teams have issues offensively. So as tough as the defense is for Russia, they're not. North America is going to be the toughest offense they face. And I think, obviously, not to underestimate Sweden or Finland's offensively, but they aren't where some other teams are. I think so. I think they have enough defense, in other words, to get them through it.
If you look at the time on ice, and I looked at it earlier, Nikita Zaitsev, the kid who's going to play for Toronto this year, who played 7 years in the KHL. I think he had the most ice time yesterday. He had over 20 minutes. He played on the power play. He played shorthanded. He's on their first pairing. Now, that may be a statement that the rest of their defense is not that good, but it's not bad. And for that to be the case,
it's not bad. And they know how to play with each other too. Like Orlov, who's I don't think is the greatest defenseman in the world in the NHL, is a good defenseman for Team Russia.
Mm-hmm. Although Zaitsev did get beat in overtime, but a lot of defensemen get beat in overtime.
Yeah, that's stuff. So moving on to that game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right about the Czechs. The Czechs played a very smart game. They did. Just to finish that thought, they really did. They did play very well. They are going to be challenged to win games, though. I think that Czech team is not. They're not. They're going to have a real tough time against Canada and the U.S.
Yeah, and their GM this morning is playing it he's playing it pretty sly. He's saying he hasn't made a decision on who the starting goaltender is for their first game, so it probably would be Neuberg.
Yeah. And they really are, because their only hope that they have is Neuberg, to be honest. That's like, I really feel that strongly about it. Because Neuberg can steal games. I'm not saying Mrazek can't, but right now Neuberg is just looking like he's more in the zone.
These teams are acting weird anyhow. Finland hasn't named Rene the starter. Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy. So getting on to the nightcap, it was fun, obviously to see Crosby play Malkin in Pittsburgh. That was a good time, and there was a lot of excitement around that. There was definitely I thought Crosby had an incredible game. I honestly thought, like, the first two periods, especially, Crosby and Bergeron, were just owning the ice. They really were playing so well, and Marchand too. But really Bergeron and Crosby, they just could do nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you something, because you were at the game. I wanted to because watching it on television and the way ESPN is doing their broadcast, where the broadcasters are doing it in Bristol, Connecticut, and they're not doing it live in the arena. It sounded completely dead in the first two periods where there was no crowd reaction. What was the crowd reaction like?
I thought the crowd was pretty good.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty loud. Not not Stanley Cup Game 5 loud, but like the last time I was in Pittsburgh. But considering it wasn't totally full. They had some of the upper levels where were blacked out with curtains.
But you don't get to hear that at home when they're piping in the announcers. That's the problem.
Yeah, I really didn't get the sense that it was a dead crowd at all.
Okay.
They were having fun with the Malkin thing. They were cheering Malkin. They were cheering Crosby.
Now Malkin did take it to Crosby in the face-off circle. And Crosby copped to it at the end of the game. In post game.
They did point out at one point on the in-game entertainment thing that they had the guy talking up on the screen that Malkin has never beaten Crosby in an international game in their entire time playing, which is interesting. They played each other, I think, 5 or 6 times. They said Malkin's never beaten him. Crosby is interesting. Something we noticed beforehand. There was a really they were having a soccer game. They do their typical soccer game, and that was crazy. Brent Burns is an absolute nut in the outdoor soccer in this soccer game that they have in the hallway before they go out to play. Yeah. Crosby was out there too, and a friend of mine pointed out that Crosby's he's got enormous thighs, and you look at Crosby's legs. The reason he's got all that power, it doesn't come off necessarily when you see him, but I've got a photograph that was just astonishing. How it's almost like how strong those legs of Crosby's are. That matters a ton.
This is getting a little creepy now, Eck. I want to agree with you, but you're getting a little creepy.
Relax. You saw it last night, and the way he just drives around the net, and he was just the way he sees the ice. In that game and the first game was apparent. Like the Canada-Russia game was much faster. Now that could be that North America just wasn't gearing it up as much as they could, and then the Czechs really were trying to kind of were playing definitely more of a defensive style. So that was but this game. Speed. However, there were so many stoppages of play in the second, especially the second period, which seemed to last 3 days. The
second period was dreadful hockey. I mean, the third period made up for it in the overtime, but the second period, for someone who has been anxiously looking forward to hockey the last two and a half months, I was switching to baseball and catching cat naps. That's how bad it was.
Literally between the 13-minute point and the 5-minute point, there must have been 20 stoppages. It was just there was no rhythm at all to the game, and no shot. It had its moments. It got back in the third period. It got its mojo back, which was good. The first period started off really, really, really strong. And I think one of the kind of I don't know how much has been talked about today, but one of the really big things last night was Carey Price was really good. Carey Price he looked a lot better than he did in the first game against the U.S. team, I thought. The save he made off Ovechkin in the first period was insane. Yeah. That was a great save, and then he made several other saves too, especially in the second period during those lapses when we were trying to stay awake. He actually made some saves throughout there. And he looks like he's on his game, and I couldn't blame any of the goals against him, that he gave up. So, and that's a huge deal for Canada. They need Carey Price to do that, and that's got to be encouraging for Canadians fans too. He really just looked like Carey Price again to me for the first time, which was good. And Bobrovsky, did his thing as well. He made some amazing saves for sure, and he's got the ability to steal games as well. I think he's the guy, over Varlamov, in my opinion, and I don't know if they've announced that or not, but I think that after Sochi they should definitely go back to Bob.
Pretty much nobody has announced goalies. Nobody.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that they're not doing that, but I think that Bob looks solid. I was sitting with the Columbus Blue Jackets GM was right near me, and he was excited about what he was seeing out of Bobrovsky.
I don't blame him.
Because obviously he was with Saku Koivu. They were scouting for Team Finland. So there was a lot of good moments again. I thought Corey Perry looked really good in that game.
He had he was good in front of the net. He was wreaking a little havoc. Yep.
Which is that's feeding right into Corey Perry's. That's his. That's what he has to do. He has to be a professional pain in the butt and antagonize. And if he's doing that, he's doing his job. And I mean that's the thing. Canada has got a lot of those players. I mean Marchand is a number one type of player. But by doing that, it gets people going. It gets the blood flowing. And him and Bergeron working together. I know they played some of the time with Crosby. I mean, if they can get Crosby on playing that type of game, then that's a plus for Canada.
Oh yeah, no, that's enormous, and you really sorry going over a loud road now. If it sounds loud, but
okay.
you really saw it with with Perry, and I think that Ducks fans have a lot to be excited about. I mean, the fact that I think Perry and Getzlaf look way track right now than they did all last year. They both Getzlaf had a strong game. He looked really solid. And Perry the same. So if you get those guys going, I mean that's a huge thing for the Anaheim Ducks.
Now, is it just me, and maybe it's the beard, but Joe Thornton, to me, I think he looks terrible right now. Maybe it's just the fact that it's early. He's playing earlier than most.
It's just the beard, you said?
Yeah, I mean he just looks old. I'm just saying he looks slower. Maybe he's playing the wrong position. I know they said on one of the Canada power plays that he was playing the position that Crosby usually plays, and he was playing at the side of the net, and that's someplace where he's not used to. But he just doesn't look. Maybe that long playoff last year took a lot out of him. He is 37 years old, and there's a question of how much is left in the tank with Joe Thornton.
I don't know. My opinion on him is more along the lines of I think that Joe Thornton does play slow. Like, that's his game, and it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the players out there because you have so many players who play at a high pace, but he was still making good passes and really, I mean, the thing is, his game is to slow the game down, which really is noticeable when you're playing with players who play so fast. It's noticeable in the NHL in general, but it's really noticeable now. But you can see like a couple. There was one power play particularly where he had 2 or 3 chances and made some nice passes. I was amazed by Datsuk. I thought Datsuk really looked good along those lines. On the power play, he made some beautiful passes. He really does that whole Magic Man thing that he really does. He does come by that. He has like that Magic Johnson type quality to him where he makes passes that amaze you sometimes. Really.
What about the elephant in the room? Ilya Kovalchuk's not on the team. What do you make of that? Have you heard any talk like the NHL didn't want him playing there? Because it can't be because he's not good enough, is it?
Yeah, I haven't heard any talk, and I was really surprised by that too. And kept thinking that eventually they would put him on the team.
Right.
But now we're going into the tournament. I don't know. That's a good question. I really don't know exactly what to make of that yet.
Well, it can't be the exclusive KHL thing because Slipachev and a couple other players.
The NHL. I don't know. I don't even think the NHL would say anything.
Right.
Maybe a personality thing. I don't know. I know there's different groups of Russian players who get along and don't get along. Maybe this is like an Ovechkin. I've always heard Ovechkin and Kovalchuk were in different, cliques, sort of, for lack of a better word, among that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that's just something I've heard. I don't really know enough to speak on it, but that's something that's been going around.
Well, why don't we talk about your preview for that division? Because I mean, if you look at that, I mean, it's North America, it's Sweden, it's Finland, it's Russia, and I think, I know they refer to certain groups in the World Cup, the European or the World Cup of soccer or World Cup of football, as the group of death. And if you look at the two groups, to me, this is the group of death because I think that the other one is much easier. And you can pretty much say, unless Team USA drops the ball, I think it's going to be Canada and U.S. in that group. We'll talk about that one going
forward. It does
forward.
feel like the NHL kind of, did set this up for the U.S. and Canada to go into the semis, right? I mean, that's right. And it is their tournament, so I guess I'd be very curious to see how things play out. Will they like reseed them again, like they do sometimes in the juniors, But I think I feel like Russia is better than the other 3 teams, and I really, in my preview, I said I could see Russia going 3-0, and then the other 3 teams really battling it out in what could just come down to like crazy tiebreakers, because that's the other thing you have to deal with in these tournaments. So I could see them all beating each other, like and having a 3-1-1 teams, or
No, I can see that.
Yeah, and then going to the final games and trying to figure out, how it's going to shape out. You could have 2-2-1 teams. You could have 1-0-3 team, and there's a bunch of different possibilities there. I think if I'm doing math correctly.
Well, I know that, and I was surprised at this, and I can't remember what commentator it was, but they were saying that they didn't think North America was going to win a game. That, not to say that they're not good, they're very good, but against three, veteran clubs like Sweden, Finland, and Russia who've played together again internationally over and over, these players have, that it's going to be tough for a sort of a hodgepodge of very good young talent to beat one of them. But
every team's a hodgepodge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, looking at that division, actually, I think that everything with Russia to me is reliant on their goaltending. If Bobrovsky is playing great, that overcomes their shortcomings on defense. Because remember, like, one of their defensive pairings is Markov and Emelin. And that defensive pairing almost isn't good enough for the NHL, and they're having to force them to play serious minutes in a World Cup tournament.
Markov's a smart player, so he makes up.
I agree, but Eck,
you know what? I like Finland better, and because I think at the end of the day, when games are getting tougher, they will figure out how to suck the life out of the other team's offense, and then it'll be up to Pekka Rinne against their goalie, and that's a pretty good matchup if Finland can do that. So I don't think Finland needs to score a lot. I just think they need to keep the score down.
Yeah, I think Finland and Sweden are challenged offensively, whereas Russia is challenged defensively. And if it resorts to form, Finland will probably win every game 2-1 because that's the type of game that they play.
Yeah, Finland is. I'm underrating them again and not putting them in. And it's like that they surely should be called the underrated spoiler team. That's what I said. Because we just don't know what they have. You look at them and you're like, okay, could anybody on Team Finland? My whole thing has always been this concept of, can anybody make Team Canada, right? So can anybody on Team Finland make Team Canada? Probably not, right? So,
well, I think the goalie could. I think I disagree. I think Rinne would.
All right. Who would?
Rinne,
maybe. All right, maybe.
I would take him over Corey Crawford. I'd take him over Corey Crawford tomorrow.
All right, okay, I'll give you that. Okay, so Rinne over Corey Crawford. That's your third. Maybe it's a third string goalie on the team, right? So, but he's not going to be the other two. So. All right, so usually any of the forwards or any of the defensemen making team? No.
Well, come on, Patrick Laine. He's got it. It's got to be Patrick Laine.
He's not making Matthews. He's not making.
Uh-oh.
I'm not saying Matthews is making team either. Okay, so
I'd say probably not though on the forwards.
Yeah, and
I'll tell you one thing, though, that Finland's got going for him. Finland, with Donskoy, he's a very underrated player, but he has looked really, really good. Like, he's picked it up right where he left it off from the Stanley Cup. So I've been impressed with Donskoy. And I got to tell you, Jussi Jokinen, what he doesn't give you defensively, he is a spark plug still offensively. And then and he draws penalties, and guys drawing penalties in these tournaments are a big deal. And if it ever does come to the shootout, they've got Jussi Jokinen, who's probably the best guy in the entire tournament for shootouts.
Yeah, and if there was an award for the most annoying pest player in the World Cup, it would be Leo Komarov.
Yes.
There's no doubt he beats Marchand, he beats Perry. He is so annoying, and I love it because I love watching him 82 games a year. Right. It's very entertaining. But he gets underneath the skin of the Swedes so much that they're ready to put a contract out on the guy.
Oh yeah, no, it's great, and I love Donskoy, I love Aho. I love Laine is great. Barkov, obviously, these are great players. If you had an under-23 team, they would be on it. These guys could make the under-23 team if that was a worldwide under-23 team. But at the end of I don't see anybody on that team. And then I go to Sweden and I see defensemen that would make Team Canada for sure. I could go to Russia, I see forwards that would make Team Canada. But I don't see anybody on Team Finland. I go to North America and I say, okay, Connor McDavid probably would make Team Canada. So maybe not, but Ekblad would have a shot at Team Canada. So I think that there's a couple of playable, but I just don't see anyone from Team Finland. Now that doesn't mean anything because it's like again, I'm just throwing out. This is a team game, and what
Right.
Finland does really well is they play a system that they're taught from the time they're 2 years old, and they all know it inside out, and they can all do it, and that's why they are so. That's why nobody wants to ever play them in these tournaments, right? They're in the ass team playing against, and being that they love playing that underdog role. Small country of 4 or 5 million people, they love this whole thing. This is what Finland that they thrive on this.
Yeah, if you're Canada, you don't want to play Finland in a big game because all the pressure is on you.
Right. Right. And honestly, I think the Finns, if you thought that they were worked up to play against the Swedes in the exhibition schedule, imagine when they play Russia. That is, especially after lose, and I know it's none of these players except Laine and Aho played in this game, but you've got Russia and Finland who had played at the World Junior in the gold medal game, and Finland winning in overtime. There is a big rivalry, a national rivalry between those two countries, especially when it comes to sport and especially when it comes to hockey. So I think that game could be one of the more entertaining games of this tournament.
I agree. I don't disagree at all. So when I think about it, I go. To me, I'm eliminating Finland. So I've got Russia going through because I do think they're the best. Then it comes down to really just what I think is a toss-up between Sweden and North America. And I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Sweden, just because I think the defense and the experience and Lundqvist, and I think this is assuming Lundqvist is which I kind of think at the end of the day.
Okay, Ak, you're breaking up. Just there.
Okay.
Let's Russ, what do you think? Let's do this. So Ak, you're saying Russia and Sweden are the two teams you think will go to the medal round?
Yes. I'll put my phone over there. Maybe we can get better reception. Yeah, I just think that I think Finland's out, but I think Russia makes it through, and I think Sweden and North America will battle it out. And I just think that Sweden and Lundqvist and just say this about Sweden's defense, even though it's gotten a lot of publicity as being the best defense in the tournament, I don't think it's better than Canada's defense. Just my opinion. But anyway, that's where I'm at.
Russ, what do you think? What teams out of that division do you think will make it to the medal round?
I think Finland's going to make it to the medal round. I think, you know what, I'm going to still go with the upset factor of Team North America making it to the medal round. I think someone like Canada could get snuffed out by Finland. I do. I just think if a team like that plays their game like that's, I think more than a Team USA. I don't know if USA would beat Canada, but I think Finland has a better chance of beating Canada. I know that sounds crazy, but
out of that division, it's Finland, Sweden, Russia, Team North America. The two.
So how many out of that one?
Two. It's
two.
Top two in each division will make it to the medal round.
So Finland and Russia out of them.
Okay, yeah. Finland and Russia. I'm going Finland and Sweden. To me, the Russians are so dependent on Bobrovsky standing on his head, and he played great yesterday. But he like I said, I was half joking, and saying he needs to be Tretiak, but I think he does. I think their defense will give up a lot of chances. Their offense will generate a lot of chances, but in tight games against the Swedes and against the Finns, that the difference may be Bobrovsky, and I'm not 100% sure that he's going to come up big. So I would say Finland and Sweden are going to make it.
Well, we'll see. Tomorrow we'll get into the other one, which I think we're probably going to go with U.S. and Canada in, but that they have a definite. If anybody's going to knock them out, let's just start here. Okay, with you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, everything's good now. It's good now.
All right. So let's just start here before we'll leave this thought with everybody. Who is more likely to be able to knock off the U.S. or Canada? Team Europe or the Czechs? That's a big question to me.
The Czechs.
Yeah, I think the Czechs.
Yeah. Especially.
Yeah, I think Neuwirth could suffocate a team at times, and I think Neuwirth would probably be more apt to do it against Team USA. I could see that happening because Team USA doesn't have tremendous firepower to begin with, and so I could see that being a bad matchup potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Team USA. I think Team USA's the toughest game for Team USA might be the very first game of the entire tournament when they have to play Team Europe, which is that's the first game on Saturday at 3 o'clock, and I can see that being a real
I don't think
tough
that's going to be a
for-
tough game.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be tough. The only way that it's tough is if the U.S. take it for granted and say, okay, we got this team beat, and
They're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, John Tortorella will basically hold their feet to the fire before that game and say, I want you to beat that team 7-1, and make a statement.
I don't think they're going to grant it, but I think that I liked some of the stuff I saw out of Europe last night. I think that that Draisaitl, if he can stay, he's a factor that you don't really think about with Team Europe, but he is definitely obviously last night he puts together the hat trick after being benched. It's kind of like some really interesting coaching there going on for a tournament like this. And I think Team Europe, having played North America, Team North America really that got them up to speed. And I also think the thing about Team Europe that you have to remember is I don't think they're taking this pre-tournament seriously at all until last night. Like that's how I felt like it. I feel like here's a bunch of guys who played in that preliminary tournament to try to get into the Olympics overseas. They've already played in another tournament. They're coming over here now. They're supposed to be playing in this pre-tournament, which they really could care less about. I think you'll see a different group of them when you get to the actual tournament. I think you'll see a different level because a lot of these guys are older, and older guys don't like to play in preseason games either. So
the only thing is, though, like I don't know what we were seeing in Henrik Lundqvist, and I think Eric could have scored on Henrik Lundqvist last night. I just do.
Thumbs up for that one. But I don't think that's true. So
you don't want to diss the guy that's driving you. I'm just going to give you a pro tip here.
Definitely know. I know. So, yeah, I guess that's all the time we have for today, pretty much. Anyway, because I'm about to get up and make it into a bad settlement. So, thanks for doing the show. Thanks. I'm sorry if the quality wasn't the greatest thing.
Just
back tomorrow today.
And we'll be back tomorrow.
What?
No, you it froze up like right when you were gonna sign off. It just froze right up. We're probably gonna do a late afternoon show tomorrow. But we'll make sure we publicize it on the website just to let everybody.
Late afternoon tomorrow, and correct. Remember that the buzz is just hockey. Talk to you then.